Welcome back, everyone. We're here with another Q&A, and anything I'm going to say is not meant to diagnose or replace your medical care. Check with your doctor before implementing any of this. And I'd just like to jump in and get started ASAP without too many long introductions.
Without further ado.
Steve, over to you.
All right, well, why don't we start off with social media this week, right out of the top. Carrie from YouTube, what are your thoughts on bovine-source calcium? And it calls it hydroxyapatite or something. I can't read it.
Well, it's a bone builder type calcium, and I think that's really good if you're trying to build bone, if you have osteopenia or osteoporosis. What happens with calcium is there's a lot of different forms. The worst form is calcium carbonate. That might be good for the soils and things like that, but it's not good for your body because it takes so many different steps for it to finally get absorbed in your body. So, like for example, there's another source I'd like to give, like kids if they have a fever or something like that. It's called calcium lactate. But there's other forms for bone building and for immune health. But I hope that answered it.
Okay, let's see. Sorry, we're looking at a little technical stuff there. Forgive me for being distracted, Dr. Berg. Let's go over to Robert from YouTube. I recently started a 7-day fast to get rid of his rosacea, but he's starting to develop phlegm in his throat and wants to know what's going on.
I think I wouldn't worry too much about that. It could be one of the transition things you're going through. Of course, phlegm is part of the immune reaction. I mean, it could be just something that you can compensate with taking something like Spanish black radish, or maybe one of the, something that's high in sulfur to help clean out your glands and things like that. The other thing too with, I think you mentioned rosacea, that is a microbiome problem. So a good probiotic might just handle and help you, in addition to what you're doing with the fasting, as well as that mucus at the same time, because who knows what that is coming from. But you're doing a great job with fasting and rosacea, because as far as the skin goes, fasting is one of the best things to clear out your skin and make it just awesome.
All right, that's terrific. I tell you what, we've had a real hero in our green room. His name is John. He's from Hudson, New Hampshire, and he's been doing all sorts of things to try to keep his shot working. We rebooted him and everything, and he's been very successful in his effort. And John, you're on with Dr. Berg for your one question.
Yes, thank you. I saw your recent video on using garlic in water and a little olive oil and letting it sort of steep there to extract it. I was wondering about the advantage of using fermented garlic. I ferment garlic and ginger. I ferment garlic and honey based on Brad Leone's It's Alive videos. So can you say if that's a better application for trying to get what we need out of it or not?
You're right on the money with that. You're absolutely right. So for fermenting, you enhance the properties, you release all sorts of additional things, including even more phytonutrients, and it just makes the nutrients more available. And you got these microbes that are actually helping you, and they live without air. They're called anaerobes, and basically go in there and they start breaking down the garlic for you. So it's kind of like pre-digested in a way, and it's so it's better for you. It's also, I ferment all the foods for the animals that I have around my farm, and it's such that you get better products like eggs from your chickens and things like that. But yeah, so use the fermented garlic. I think that's a very smart way to enhance the properties without doing anything crazy. So that's awesome.
All right. Well,
thank you.
Thank you so much. What a great initial caller. Kept that nice and brief. Why don't we kick it off with a brief question, Dr. Berg? Here's the first one.
All right. So what is the best indication or clue that your keto and fasting plan is working successfully?
All right. Dig into that, audience. And speaking of the audience,
Yeah.
Dr. Berg, let's find out who's watching or listening around the world. So good morning to all our viewers joining us from the UK, Canada, Albania, Zambia, Taiwan, South Africa. We've got someone in the green room from there, from Durban, which will be on with us a little later. Jordan, Greece, Mexico, France, Cameroon, Australia, Belgium, India, Norway, Pakistan, Japan, New Zealand, Singapore, Germany, Iraq, Chile, the Czech Republic, Kuwait, Ireland, Morocco, Iran, Russia, Dubai, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Netherlands, Israel, the Bahamas, Algeria, Turkey, Peru, Nigeria, Sweden, Trinidad and Tobago, the United Arab Emirates, Switzerland, Ethiopia, Oman, haven't heard from them for a while, Finland, Spain, St. Lucia, Malaysia, Poland, Austria, Cyprus, Scotland, goodness, Italy, Ghana, Philippines, Uganda, Bulgaria, and all across these United States. And usually when we do this, other people go, hey, wait a minute, what about me? So we may throw in a couple extra names from people around the world that are so overjoyed to be watching us. And thank you all so much for making the show a success. Okay, so Lucy from YouTube, what is the best immune booster to take to prevent COVID, if we want to delve into that?
Well, I can get in trouble for talking about that, right? So I would highly recommend, the most important would be vitamin D. The most important, hands down, is vitamin D. The second most important is zinc, and third is vitamin C. So those three are vital for all type of viral and type infections. So, think about just the immune system in general. Each part of your immune system has receptors, whether it's a gland, whether it's a white blood cell, and there are receptors in every single aspect of your immune system for vitamin D. So obviously your vitamin D is so needed. So and more than half the population is deficient too. So it also can help curb the excessive reaction that your immune system might manifest, like a cytokine storm or an inflammatory thing where you have all this extra collateral damage. So when you get sick from an infection, whatever infection it is, usually it's your own immune system. Like, for example, interferon is a natural thing that interferes with viruses, and it tries to stop the reproduction of viruses. So your body produces that, but in the process, it tends to create some collateral damage. And that's why you don't feel very great. So if your immune system works correctly and you take certain nutrients, you can actually minimize the bad feeling that you go through when you have an infection. So, and the complications. So that's really, really important and really cool. But again, I'll just say this and then I'm going to zip it. No one's talking about the immune system, but your immune system is the most important thing that fights off things versus anything else that people are focusing on.
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, I'll say one more thing about it. So at the beginning of the whole COVID nightmare, Dr. Berg said, zinc and vitamin D, very essential, zinc and vitamin D. 6 months later, all the big heads in the government and medical said, zinc and vitamin D. By golly, we've just discovered that zinc and vitamin D are what you need. So just for the record, you've been way ahead of the curve on that one, Doc. And many people, I'm sure, have appreciated your counsel, including myself. I had it early on and followed that regime. So let's see. How about JD from Facebook? I have gout. Ouch. What should I do to address it?
Well, the first thing I would look at is your carbs. Make sure, especially fructose, it just tears up gout. So you want to get off sugars. You want to do keto. And if you still have gout, there are some things you can do on a temporary basis. You can actually do like baking soda. Maybe follow it up an hour later with some apple cider vinegar on an empty stomach. And I had a video on this. You just take like 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda, because what you're going to do is you're going to alkalize the body temporarily to then cause this less kind of precipitation from the uric acid crystals into your tissue. So it kind of reduces that inflammatory reaction. The other thing that you can do is to buy those shoes that actually are more like for barefoot walking, where the toes are separated more. So it gives your toe a chance to kind of not be so irritated in the shoe. So the diet is going to be key. There's, people say, well, it's the purines, get off all meats and be a vegetarian. Well, guess what? There's a lot of conflicting information on that. And so you'll have to experiment to see if that is true. But that being said, the most important thing is to bring your carbs down as low as possible, because the fruits, even the berries, can stir them up, as well as the hidden sugars that are in so many so-called keto-friendly treats. So that's what I would do.
Very good. Okay, the world's fastest audience has come back with the first quiz question answer. The quiz asked, what is the best clue that your keto and intermittent fasting plan is working? And the audience came back, 60% of them at least, with less hunger and cravings. 20% say clothes fit better, getting skinnier, I guess, and 20% say better cognitive function and less brain fog. And I'll vote for the last one. That certainly happened in my case. Doc, who's right?
Well, the majority is right, because it is less appetite. When your appetite goes down, that means that your insulin is going down and your blood sugars are going down. And so now you're burning your own fat. Now you're more satisfied, because if you're burning your fat, well, you can go long periods of time without that darn appetite kicking in there. The worst thing you can do on a keto plan is to do the keto without intermittent fasting. And then also to have maybe just a little bit of something, like in between meals, to get you through the time of challenge. Like maybe, well, I'm not going to have a snack, but I'll just have a little bit of something. That little bit of something is going to make you hungry an hour and a half later. It's much better to push through that until you get to the next meal, and then have a bigger meal, even if it's more calories, and then a little bit more fat. But once you do this consistently long enough where you're doing it correct, and then you can actually start really seeing the amazing results. Because I notice when I'm critiquing people, they're not always doing it correctly long enough for it to really work. They're sort of doing it, but especially with keto, if you're just going off the program a little bit, it really nullifies your results, especially weight in the middle section of your body.
All right, very good. Let's go over to Facebook. Jolie, I've started to get GI irritation from drinking coffee, and she asked, should I give up coffee?
Well, that's a hard one. The answer is yeah. Give it up. Give it up.
If it hurts when you do that, don't do that, right? I think it falls under that
Right.
category. Let's see, Judith.
It hurts every time I take a hammer and hit my thumb, it hurts.
All right. Well, I'm sorry for her, because I love coffee, and it would bug me if I couldn't gulp some down. But anyway, good luck with that, young lady. Okay,
I know. It would hurt me too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
rough.
I gotta get jittery. Judith from YouTube, how much K2 and calcium would you recommend that we take on a daily basis?
Well, the K2, it should be in relationship to your vitamin D. So let's say, for example, you take 10,000 IUs as a maintenance dosage of vitamin D, and that's what I recommend. And that's not excessive, just FYI, especially since most people don't absorb very much. So if you do 10,000 IUs of vitamin D, you need 100 micrograms of K2. So that would be the ratios, okay? 10,000 to 100. But again, the units are different. Talking about micrograms for K2. Now, as far as calcium, I don't recommend taking calcium as a supplement in any large amounts. Now, it can be small amounts here and there, but if you're taking like 500 milligrams of calcium, now I can see if you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, but if you don't, and you're taking that calcium, it creates a lot of issues. So calcium is not something that kind of goes through your body easily. Like same thing with iron and a few other minerals. Once you're there in your body, it's hard to get rid of it. And so many people, as they age, start to calcify their joints, their eyes, their arteries. So the best thing to do is not to take calcium and then just get it from your food, okay? Get it from leafy greens, get it from your nuts, get it from your dairy in the form of your kefir cheese, some really good raw milk cheese would be great.
Well, that's terrific. Well, I tell you what, I remember a couple of weeks ago you said, I don't make people, or say smash that subscribe button and do all that. And you noted if people like what I got to offer, then they'll follow me. If not, no hard feelings. And here's evidence of that. Ann from Facebook. Intermittent fasting has worked great for me. I lost 42 pounds since 2020 and have kept it off. Thank you, Dr. Berg. I mean, these are life-changing results, no doubt. So thank you, audience, for mentioning that. And let's see. One more from Facebook before we go back to other matters. Lisa from Facebook. If you had your gallbladder removed, are you automatically a liver type? I don't feel like I have any of those symptoms.
No, it doesn't mean you're automatically liver type, but I would make mental note on the reason why you have the gallbladder in the first place. Usually, it's because you had either a stone or some bile sludge or an infection, in which case, if there's a problem in the gallbladder, chances are there's probably a problem in the liver too, since the liver makes bile salts. But it doesn't automatically mean that, but it just means that there could be an issue in that area. So you got to take all the data and kind of look at it and compare it and see what bucket you might fall into.
Sounds great. Okay, why don't we go back to the green room from Taryn from Durban, South Africa, with her fabulous accent and so on. Taryn, you're on with Dr. Berg.
I think I might disappoint you with my accent. It's not that severe. So I have adrenal fatigue, and I also suffer from a dairy and egg allergy. So I'm wanting to do keto and intermittent fasting, but I'm concerned about is intermittent fasting safe with adrenal fatigue? And how am I going to get the nutrients I need if I'm not getting the dairy and egg on my keto diet?
Very good question. I think just the fact you have allergies, guess what's going to help you more than anything? It's going to be the fasting. The fasting stimulates stem cells for your immune system. You can build a new immune system. It's one way to improve an allergy, because think about what you're doing. You're not eating something, so you're not constantly triggering that immune response. And also, a lot of these allergies stem from the gut. So we want to make sure that we give the gut a chance to heal between the meals. So definitely it's going to help you. Now, as far as the adrenals go, you'd be surprised. You would think that the adrenals do better with more frequent meals or more carbs. They don't. Especially, you just take the sympathetic nervous system, the flight or fight. You basically aggravate the sympathetic nervous system when you eat more carbs and sugar. You improve the parasympathetic when you cut down the sugars. And this is why when you do keto and intermittent fasting, you're probably going to notice a calmness about. You're going to feel you can tolerate stress better. Your mood is much higher. You have less anxiety, things like that. You can resist stress better. But I will say the confusion, I think, arises from people that do fasting without really adapting to fasting. They might do some cleanse for a week and feel like crap because they either are still eating a little sugar or juice, or they do it too fast. So you want to kind of go into it within 3 days, adapt to it, and then do it exactly like I say on my website, and I think you'll be totally fine. I had adrenal fatigue, and boy, it really helped me for sure. So I would try it out.
That's great.
Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us.
And you're probably thinking, what am I? I don't have an accent. You have an accent, right?
I bet that's true. Yeah, well, she does. There's no denying it. Believe me, we Americans know how to ferret out an accent, and you've got one, and we love it. So anyway, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Cheers,
much.
guys.
You bet. Thanks so much for joining us with your accent, so on. And let's see. Oh, we better go straight to Bakir from YouTube because he's got a lot going on. I'm diabetic, and I have enlargement of the prostate and a fatty liver. What should I be doing to address these conditions?
Well, this might shock you. I hope you're sitting down, but you just need to do the basic healthy keto and intermittent fasting because rather than try to treat a condition, why don't we just get your food, your eating corrected? that's something that's really not emphasized enough. And I think that it's usually these basic things that produce the biggest change versus trying to individually take something to try to fix something, either it's a vitamin, something like that. You're going to reduce inflammation. So you're going to help so many parts of your body. And also, you're going to finally start to increase the sensitivity to insulin, which is going to help you absorb more nutrients from the food that you're already eating. So when you have someone that says, well, I can't do keto because I'm a diabetic, it just tells you, wow, who told you that? Well, I read it in an article. Well, what exact article? Well, and you find out it wasn't an article. It was just it's a PR campaign to get people off keto.
Interesting.
I mean, think about who makes money on intermittent fasting. I mean, no one makes money. It's like not eating snacks anymore. So that's going to create a dent into certain industries. So, of course, you're going to have opposing viewpoints.
Well, poor snack retailers. Well, I'm sure they'll survive. And Kimberly's going to survive, but she has and she's from Facebook, has a really low red blood cell count, and her doctor won't tell me how to raise them. I'm always tired and falling asleep. Can you help me?
Well, I don't know, but anemia comes to mind, and I think the couple things for anemia. First of all, are you menstruating a lot? Well, that could be what you need to fix. Is that you need to get more iron, and the best source of iron is from red meat and or liver. If you don't want to do that, you can even get them in pills. There's even a really good remedy. It's actually a spleen extract. I know it sounds gross, but that's really good for anemia because it helps the immune system as well. But that's what you need. Now, let's say you're doing that and you're still anemic. Because with the red meat and the liver, you're getting B12 for both of those, right? So that could B12 and iron deficiencies are the two types of anemia. But the other factor which can help you is making sure your stomach acid is really nice and acidic. Because if you don't have enough stomach acid because you're on an antacid, that can be something that keeps you from absorbing not just iron, but B12. So betaine hydrochloride is a good remedy for that.
Very good. Okay, let's go to our lightning quiz question number 2, Doc. There it is.
Okay. What does the herb ashwagandha mainly affect in the body?
Climb on it, audience. Sure you can figure that out. Let's see. Jennifer from YouTube, thank you so much. You've really helped me. Here's another one, especially with the recommendation of B1 and kefir to stop my nightmares. Did I already say that? I don't think so.
No.
Well,
wow.
There's another one.
It's interesting. Yeah, because with the nightmares or vivid dreams, boy, the B1 just completely knocks that out of the ballpark. I mean, it's kind of good to know these associations because then you can, because it's really hard to do a blood test and pick up these deficiencies and everything comes out normal, but you still have these symptoms. But if you understand what the deficiencies are, looking at your nails or your skin or having these things, it's beneficial.
All right, Allison from YouTube, I recently read that women aren't supposed to fast during the last week of their cycle because it can disrupt hormonal function. Is that true?
It only is true if you're nutrient deficient when you're fasting, going into the fasting or while you're fasting. This is why I always recommend taking supplements while you're fasting so you're not nutrient deficient, because it's the deficiencies of the nutrients that can affect certain parts of your body. So when you're fasting, you make sure you get electrolytes, the B vitamins, omega-3, vitamin D, maybe some vitamin C, and trace minerals. And you'd be surprised how everything kind of works really nicely.
Very good. Beverly from Facebook, what food should I avoid on keto because she has fibroids?
Dairy. Avoid dairy. And the other thing you can do, which is in addition to the fasting, is the cruciferous vegetables, which have this anti blood vessel supply to that growth of that tumor, that fibroid. And so it'll help to shrink those tumors in there. So that's what I would recommend.
Very good. Okay, now Charlotte from Facebook, I have diverticulitis, ouch, and a lot of pain on my lower left side. What's going on?
Well, you have inflammation. So, of course, I would look to your foods, and I would not just get on a regular keto. I would get on probably a carnivore keto for at least a couple of months to make sure that you're not reacting to even certain fibers and phytonutrients and vegetables. So you might play around with that. I've done videos on that, but that's the best thing you can do. And I mean, yeah, you're going to be on a meat diet, eggs, and you're going to find that, wow, inflammation, because I'm eating more fat, but without all the carbs and grains especially, my stomach feels so much better. So that's what I would do if I were you.
Well, Dr. Berg is our living petri dish. He experiments with all sorts of stuff, and he looks so healthy, must be working. Nada, on the other hand, from Facebook, is complaining of bloating, always feeling bloated. What can she do? Doesn't give us any other detail.
I recently did a video on abdominal pain and bloating, and so if you look at the stomach and divide it into like a little squares, like a TikTok map, right? And you can kind of, is it the problem more on the right upper side? That's gallbladder, liver. If it's on the left side, it could be pancreas or spleen. And so if you watch that video, you can isolate it. But typically with bloating, the person is having, if they're especially on the keto, they're usually doing some keto treat with some synthetic fibers or sugar alcohols that just are just creating a lot of problem. But with me, growing up, I had I was eating so much grain, so much sugar, and those grains with all that gluten just tore me up. So I had no idea what was causing my bloating until my 20s. And I remember driving in a car, Steve, eating an entire loaf of French bread with abdominal pain, wondering why did my stomach hurt? And I'm like, I don't know. I just had an absence of awareness on foods and health. I mean, it's pretty ironic that I was probably the person that was lacking the most information on nutrition that I've ever even dealt with.
Well, it's so funny. Early in your tenure of helping people on the air, you used to experiment and tell all these horrible things that happened to you as you sort of bubbling test tubes, and you take a sip and discover that didn't work. So he's taken a lot of blows for you, audience, to figure out what does and doesn't work at his own peril. I can tell you that. I tell you what, our audience, though, is laser focused and has come up with answers already for the quiz question number 2, which asks, what does the herb ashwagandha mainly affect in your body? And 70% of respondents say ashwagandha helps the adrenals and reduces stress. 20% say that it helps blood health, I guess generally, and 10% say it helps the good old liver.
Okay, so you are right. It's an adrenal stress cortisol herb. So it increases your tolerance to stress. Now, it's one of the most powerful adaptogens. And an adaptogen is something that can help you cope with stress. And it can lower cortisol. Now, cortisol does not make you stressed. It counters some of the stress. It helps you cope with stress by adapting different parts of your body to the stress. Sometimes people say, oh, my adrenals are jacked up, so I'm stressed out, or my cortisol is high, so it's making me stressed. No. That's just reacting to stress that's already affected your body. So I will be releasing a video on ashwagandha because it's the most powerful herb for helping you adapt to stress. Now, of course, if you ask me about what vitamin is the best one, I would say vitamin B1. That's just amazing. Within 3 minutes, you're going to feel like just sense of, I feel less tension in my body, stress-wise. And like you kept saying, Steve, it's like learn from other people's mistakes, right? Don't wait and try to figure it out. Just like learn from mistakes of others. And that way you can save a lot of extra time.
Absolutely. Dr. Berg's got the bruises to prove it. So anyway, Nan from YouTube wants to know what she can do to get rid of her severe sciatic pain. She said she watched some videos of yours, but still seems to be ailing. What do you think, Doc?
Well, lately, I really am telling people to make sure they're following the healthy version of the ketogenic diet, and that might just handle your keto, because you'd be surprised how much inflammation is going on just from not doing that. The other thing is that you want to keep the curve in your lower back more inward, okay? And so at night, you want to get a really good, like a foam cushion. I don't think I have one around here. And then you keep that, you lay on that with your lumbar spine, and you, not just for a few minutes, but for like, if you can go 10, 15 minutes, because you want to start putting that curve back in, especially if you drive, if you sit, because it's the loss of the curve that then will put pressure on those nerves. I used to have really bad sciatica. I did that, not to mention a lot of other things, and I have no more sciatica. So it does work from the reports on hundreds of people. So that's what I would do.
That's very encouraging. Now, here's an earthy question from Agamemnon from YouTube. What does it mean to have undigested food in your stool?
It means that you have some incomplete part of your digestion. Primarily, I would say it starts with the stomach. You probably don't have enough acid in your stomach, so you want betaine hydrochloride. Take 5 of those before a meal. You could need more enzymes, but start with the acid, because the acid will cause the release of some of these enzymes. So it could be just the acid, plus the acid helps you release the bile salts. So you got different things that are missing, that could be missing. You got the stomach acids, so betaine hydrochloride. It could be the lack of bile, so you take some bile salts. It could be a lack of enzymes, you take enzymes, or it could be a lack of friendly microbes, so you need a good probiotic. Any one of these could create a problem, and I've done videos to try to sort out which one you need, but I would start with the hydrochloric acid as betaine hydrochloride.
Very good. Okay, Beth has an interesting question from Facebook. Can you explain why my ketones are normal around 2 a.m., but really drop after 18 to 20 hours of fasting?
Now, are you checking your urine? Because if you're checking your urine, that could be you're just utilizing more of your ketones, because the ketones in the urine are just being wasted. But when you become more efficient, you'll start burning those. But like during the day, if you're checking your blood ketosis, you have a lot of things that can influence your ketones. It could be stress. It could be you didn't get a good night's sleep the night before. It could be the circadian waves that occur from other hormones like cortisol. It could be what you just ate for lunch. So I'd have to kind of do a deep dive in there. But again, if the ketones don't show up, don't think it's the ultimate indicator. It's like if your blood sugars are low, you're burning ketones. And also, is your appetite gone? Okay, then it's working. Give it time. You're closed, looser? I've had people that really never seem to show much positive ketones, but they lost tons and tons of weight. So I would only use that test for a grain of salt and not depend on it too much.
All right, that's terrific. You know, something else is encouraging is the honesty from our audience. And Hans from YouTube says, thank you, Dr. Berg, for all your research. I've been off clean keto and have gained 70% of my weight back. Big mistake. I'm working my way back through it. I think, right? You punish yourself a couple times and you learn. But it's good for him to say, 7 times down, 8 times up, right? Just keep at it. And that's what he is demonstrating, along with his thanks for having seen great results.
Yeah, I think I was the poster child for experimenting and going off the program, on the program, off the program. I had to be convinced